Malawi Brief.
Lawyer Alexius Kamangira akususana ndi Ayuba James amene analemba pa tsamba lake la mchezo kunena kuti nsima ku Malawi kuno imayikidwa patsogolo komanso imagwiritsidwa ntchito ngati chida chopangira kampeni pa nkhani ya ndale. Iye anapitiriza kunena zoti pakafukufuku amene iye anachita anaona kuti ndi ku Malawi kokha kuno kumene chakudya chimayikidwa kukhala mu ndandanda la zitukuko zoti president apange pamene maiko ena sizimakhala choncho. Kamangira akususana ndi nkhani ndipo walankhula zosatirazi.
Kamangira inakuzana akupenga ade amene tamumveni zimene wayankhula. I know that. But anyway, kupenga kosatha, kupenga koyambira 2024. Akuti kupenga. Okay. Pali zinthu zina zimene anthu amathaulira kuti ase izizi kuti kulimbana nazo chifukwa chake. Iweyo ndi munthu onena kuti you are very important, you know, people praise you like that. You are very important. Koma you wait you umalimbana. Okay, Amalawi satha kungomuyamikira munthu. Amalawi nthawi zambiri sitimamikira munthu. Timadikira kale kuti munthu cha blande kapena aoneke kuti wabalalika ola akhale m'mavuto. You know, pamapezeka anthu ena ake amazatani amazapezeka munthu ake waba akamaba sopo mshopu kamaba china chake linamugwira akamugwira mucha ndiye kina kuno azimayi akamadusa kama nyama tokongola uja ngati nyama tokongola ngati iwe chimwe mabera nchani mabazo nyama tokongola komatu nyama ta uja asana grade mavuta amene azimayi ajasangamu yamigire ulo azibamba ajasangana he's a good looking or he's handsome or something like that. So Amalawi tili ndi kachisimu kuonena kuti sitima yamikira munthu anti munthu uja apeze kuti wagwa m'mavuto kaya wakumana ndizovuta ndine kuti koma munthu yitu anali chancha vuto ndiakuti so anthu akaona ngati kuti ndabalalike akaona kuti ndalakwisa amabwera uzinena iweyo of course zimwe makamba zinzoona hit koma no samalimbani ndachinatamia ja usamalimbani ndachina bakiri musti iweyo ase iwe standard yako pamwa you don't understand what's going on, you don't understand how important it is to engaging with everyone, engaging with this, because that's the narrative. You know, social media is very powerful. It's very powerful that it's sending messages and it's a platform where people learn. You know, and so people are learning whether they come to learn or not, but they're learning. They're consuming information, so they will consume what is being provided. You know, so in your hands, in anthu ziwa zinthu ngati simu kubwera pa social media, pa Facebook, pa TikTok, pa Twitter, if you're not coming pa TikTok, pa Facebook, we got information yoyenera inyo ngati azibusa simubwera pa social media ndikubweresa the right information of what God is, who God is, and how God is important in our lives. Inyo ngati andari or my policy makers, if you don't come, my voters, if you don't come for social media, where is the information people will be consuming maboza, and how banga spread. So you have to bring the light to the world. You know, akamani na ukakhalamuni munu chatima wiga pa mwamba pajani pa pili kapena poonekera usati kuvindikira ndi chani ndi chibekete kapena kuvindikira ndi ndowa. Nkhani yake ndi imene yonena kunena kuti but social media, it's a platform. Social media is a platform where people are feeding each other and feeding themselves a lot of information, different information. So if you know the truth and you know the reality and you have the right teaching, social media, people will feed into the wrong information, the missing information, lies, my conspiracies, so that's why, to me, even zinzoneka kuti zozelezeka koma ngati ndikuona kunena kuti information image people will grab it and think that's munthu amaganiza mwanzeru. That's what you have to engage. So today munthawi yochepa ndifuna ndikambe za nkhani ya nsima. There's been a lot of teaching and kunyoza nsima. Anthu akhala kunyoza nsima kwambiri. You know, there's a lot of conversation yonyoza nsima. Nsima ija kutipangisa kupepera imatigonesa. Now, it's nothing personal engaging this individual. It's about principles, it's about principles and how influential this person is in terms of the young people and the platform that he has, Sylvester Ayuba James. So, Ayuba is not only an MP. Influence yake is not only an MP. That's what you must know. The is not empty. Okay? Let's agree. Ayuba is not empty. He's intelligent, but he's average intelligent. When I engage him and say, I see that he's intelligent, but he's average intelligent. But among Malawians, he's a genius. Because it's Malawi, there's a limit in terms of information and understanding, analysis, discourse analysis in the Ovuta Wambidu Malawi. So, Ayuba, who is intelligent, we should recognize that. His dude is intelligent, but he's average intelligent. Among Malawians, he's genius. He's at the top of intelligence. So, I'm closing too. There's many average intelligent people when and then the not intelligent ones as well. They're like, wow. When he speaks, it's wow. So he said, he wrote a post yesterday, I think yesterday or the other day. So this post was saying, Ali Parliamenti kuna bwela ankamapanga present my research, and he was part of the team because obviously Nimuntu is an important person. He's a chairman. He's not just an mayor MP. He's an important person. He's an important MP. he was sitting among the researchers presenting their findings because I'm the chairman of the committee. And then the findings of the research was talking about food. With the food, chakuja ndichinchofunikira bankhani ya ukavotedwe. And hama voter based on food. Ayuba damina weyankwa. Ndia kuzanina unena izizi zimaonesa kunena kuti dziko limene ku Malawi ndi dziko limene linayika one issue imene inayika pamwamba nkhani ya chakudya. And who ndichifukwa chakuitira mphawi. Basically the argument there is that kusauka chifukwa chakuganiza kusauka ndifukwa kuti mayika chakudya ngati number 1. Ndisiposi tingapite pena pali pose tikena tizikambirana zinthu zeni osalizicha chakudya. Then he went further and talked about the northern region of Malawi. So he also makes a distinction. Good research, you must have distinguished. Greetings, Bido International. I recognize your presence. I must have also differentiate, distinguish between northern, central, and the south. And south being the least in terms of, and the list in terms of the list in terms of food security, and obviously more poverty in the southern region. There must only say in the southern region and hango bilikana. So amapanga combine usowa chakudya, poverty, and then population and the my priorities. You can't the upside down priorities. Now, ndikukhulupira unena kuti anthu amene amanyoza a Malawian or Malawians as a bloc, as a people, putting food security as a priority issue in voting and policy decision making and all that, they are not intelligent at all. They are horses in the gear. They are people that don't look things deeper, people that don't reflect. And how many Malawians they will understand why for a Malawian and better before you Malawi chakudya ndi top priority. Why Nsima is a priority? Because it's not easy to find Nsima, the survival. These people, you're engaging with a population, chakudya sijima pezeka. So, a country where chakudya is not available, it's not easily available, food will be a priority because you have to survive. Before you talk about anything else, you have to have food. When are we getting to? Choyamba, TJ. That's it. So you should never be ashamed, Malawian. Musazanyo zedu kabina kuoneka ngati opepera kabina kurola kuti munthu nake apeperese ziko. Kuti ziko lili mapanga prioritize chakudya. No, if we don't have food, we prioritize chakudya because that's a priority. Anywhere else. That's why tikamaya ichi pyramid of necessities but that's the basic needs. That's why you have that pyramid that prioritizes Anthu amene ndi nzeru za average mu society yathu amatsatengedwa ngati and the brilliant people, and they control narratives. And I saw people from the north celebrating, north, blah blah blah. You know, I went into a discussion one of these days. I was doing exercise, and then I just went live, and I was talking about the northern region and how the northern region has been actually the dominant region. Ngati kuli anthu akuli dera imene lapanga dominate Malawi. Limene manena ine kunena kuti when it comes to power, little power, substantive power, it is people from the north that has had substantive power. That's why people from the north, food will not be an issue. Why? Because they have been determining the cake, the national cake, the national cake. The national cake, Malawi, and how many abanga a huge part the national cake. There are people from the north, so that's why Chakuja is not an issue, a priority issue for people from the north. It works like that. Like it's you know. So the problem, the Maslow's hierarchy, exactly. Thank you so much, Tom Cavallo, for that. The Maslow hierarchy. So that's why we have a Maslow hierarchy. As simple as that. So I'm pointing out that pamamba, even wearinga, they just read. They lack analytical eye. They don't analyze. You know, we know the Masonic pyramid. That's what I know. It's a pyramid. You know, there are people that read, you know, and people that have good even papers. They have my papers. They are a doc, they are a PhD holder, they are kind of professor, kind of master holder, kind of degree holder, kind of a diploma holder. Come on, these people, they don't really analyze things. You know, they can read 50 books. That's why I've read very few books. Why? Because I don't really have time. But I need to read, and the artist is wearing and mabuku. When I'm reading a book, I want to be available to read the book, available physically, but also emotionally, my whole self. When I read the book, for even my book, Amalemba Anthu my prejudices. How they have their own prejudices. Every author writes a book with their own context, in their own understanding. This is why when you listen to Professor Lumumba, he says something very important. In your auditors, when you audit, you use my standard, international standards. You accountants, you use international standards. Kaya my engineer, you use international standards. Kaya my chani professionals also use it. But are these international standards or these are European standards? Are these, you know, you need to analyze. That's why you have to be analytical. You know, that's why analytical discourse. That's why right now I'm a diehard of critical social legal theory. You know, my theories honestly, I've moved over those theories. I've grown out of those theories. I'm a critical social legal theorist. You know, because that's what you need, you know, to go beyond what you see and look with the background, practical. So you can't shame Malawians for prioritizing food. You should be shamed as politicians, as in you and Malawi, still food is a priority. It's a number one issue. Not shame those people that prioritize that, because because you can't prioritize anything else if you don't have food. So you have made what is basic and accessible. Chintu chimene chili basic kumalawi chinasanduka chintu chosowa, chintu chokakhala ndi chakudya mtima nokhala pasi. You know, chimene chocho vuto ndili pamene popo kuti tinapanga chintu chimene chili basic, it's no longer basic. It's no longer basic. Ena so kuti iya itaona ni bando ija abaye uzandiuza na 90%. Pepani nditu. but I don't help with my bando. Nanka ndikugawire nzeru nzanga ndikugawire nsondalama. Ndikugawire maganizidwe ndikuthandizeni maganizidwe then ndikugawire nsondalama. That's zumezo ndeba mebo ndikhamba ya Ayuba kuti kupempha kwambiri amanga. You just want to receive. So what I said is Ayuba is intelligent, but is average intelligence. So intelligence yake pena bagamba yankhola zinto zona. But you need to go beyond the surface. You know, kungonena kuti chakudya is a priority kumai kuno. Why is food a priority? Ziko lisiti kuenda bwino. Basa ndo Ayuba mango. Malawi. Food is a priority because it's not accessible. Food is not a basic thing. It's not a basic situation chima pezeka easily. In fact, Malawi, you look at most children, they grow with malnutrition. If it was not for donors and different projects, if it's not for Dream, for instance, with their malnutrition or nutrition effort and projects, if not for UNICEF, if not for Save the Children, if not for a number of projects, which also take advantage of our country, of course, but at least it saves the children from dying with malnutrition, would be worse, would be povuda wambi. So we need to go beyond the basic. Chakudya is a priority because chakudya it's not easy to find food. When you live in Europe, you find chakudya si issue. It's not an issue. What do I want? What kind of food? Do I want nyama yocha? Do I want your pika? Do I want nyama yotani? Kapena nyama hii, ndingogula nyama yone ndiye fresh. Yosa pika komwe. That's what you deal with in Europe. Kapena nsomba ndiye nsomba yotani. Nsomba, which nsomba? Should I eat tilapia? Should I eat salmon? What fish do I want to eat? Oh, come on. That's what you deal with when you're in Europe. You know, when you're in countries that have... So, my ego... It's a good example of what is wrong with our country. Okay? Go on. Ayuba is a good example of what is wrong in our country. Ndisanzo jabu chof sonyeza godi vudo ziko la tundi jani. For Ayuba, how do you like vote for Ayuba to go to parliament? That shows you how wrong our country is. Because Ayuba is going ndimbava, ama benatu. You know, when he was being appointed, the injunction. In fact, parliament should never allow Ayuba to be in parliament because the injunction, yome gula maoya, kabunga maoya, paso focus zao zili hapo, kumana grizana committee yao ya disciplinary committee. Kunena kuti Ayuba anadani kodi anabera drama client andi inenayo una umboniwo. Muntu hidi pali suspicion yokwanira, pali evidence beyond reasonable doubt, but in this circumstance what was required is a probability of balance, a balance of probabilities. It's not beyond reasonable doubt unless it's a criminal trial. But in terms of a civil trial, administrative action, it's just on the balance of probabilities. And on the balance of probabilities, 100% Ayuba anaja drama as a client. And I don't think drama. So this person has been recommended for disbarment by a bungu la maloya. And in the end, how parliament? What do you expect? So, the thing is, he's a good example of what is wrong in our country. You know, I'll give you an example. Ayuba example. Ayuba is a typical politician. Meaning, amakamba izi, amabanga izi. Songhani ya Nith, you know? Mongoleza Nith. Analemba ba ujeni bagu. Animana, Nith ine, Ayuba. Animana ine, sana ni gairi drama za Nith. Oh, 2 mina if numbers information kutu muntu hanaja amwini 20 million, 29 million and the old around 40 million. So, my interest, 40 million he was owing NIF. Munthu yemweyo anapita kuchani ku parliament kuchokakhala chairman wa committee imene ikuyenera kupanga hold accountable my institutions. You see what is wrong in our country? How do you put Ayuba kukhala mtsogoleri wa aphungu anyumba ya malamulo kuti azikapanga hold accountable institutions? Because Ayuba ni crook. And what does he do? He comes out, tunaendela kunifi, nifi is wrong, and amene upanga benefit, isa amene upanga benefit ndi andali. So nifi ija ya grisida nchilo ngata, Ayuba sana bweze ngongoli, so kumanso munthu oti amaoneka ngati kuti he's sharp, he's talented, but ndiwapa mwamba chani, ndiwapa mwamba is surface. Because dziko ngati mmene lili Malawi, the poverty level, and to kuvutika ninja, there's nothing else you can prioritize as a nation. You have to prioritize food because you have to survive first. You have to eat to be alive, and then you can be thinking about the other things. So vudo limene usiya Malawi, vudo limene ndira asogoledi Malawi. And then what he does, he throws the problem, the blame to Malawians and not taking responsibility as leaders. And that's what happens. Amakupanga ni victim shame, basically. You are victims, and then he shames you. Mungo berekana. And who wango berekana? Chifukwa chino the dziko did not organize. Dziko ngati mene UK, London. If you're living in London, for instance, you don't have a luxury of having kids anyhow, unless you have capacity, because ziku salira. So you need to fix Malawi. You don't worry much. Kulera ujasanga gwire. People, you can't stop people from having sex, but you have to make people to have responsible sex. And how you do that? Tukula ni mioyo yao. Population control imateka mukatukula mioyo ya anthu. If mioyo ya anthu ili yolowa pansi, ngati mioyo ya anthu ili yosokonekera, ngati mioyo, you cannot expect dziko kuti anthu asiye kuberekana. Anthu aberekana nditu. So Ayuba abwera, mungo berekana, mungo swana, he's a basic, he's intelligent, but average intelligent. But among dull people in Malawi, among uneducated people, you will be hero. I'm a Gamisa, do open the man, how many would, I'm a young. You need to analyze and wow now. I've kept on some enough. So, he's a very good example of a bad example. Is a very good example of a bad example. He is a very good example of what's wrong in this country. My sons, if you follow Ayuba, so Ayuba has been my friend for years. I've followed him. I listen to what he says. We have had debates. We have had conversations. We have had debates. If some of you will follow Zodiac, we have had a debate on even death penalty. Ayuba Mbayawo, I don't remember the journalist who did this, but so I've worked with Ayuba. I know how he thinks. I know his philosophy. He never stood with refugees. He never stood. So what kind of African are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? So Malawi, sitima anybody, sitima panga analyze into, sitima zisadapula into ja, kuzisadabuza, kuziunguza ndikuona kuti chenteni ndichi. So tiyambe kupanga choncho society yathu ikamba kumapanga zinthu zomaziona kuti munthu uyu kumamuona munthu uyu. And he was the president Chakwera. So why this example is very important. Both Ayuba is not an honest person. Ndi munthu wachipamaso kwambiri. This is important. Zulu, President Ramaphosa has responded to the issues of immigration in South Africa and how some South Africans are attacking Africans from other countries. Now, my issue is not whether what he's saying is true, whether he's solid, but my issue is he has responded to it. He has attended to the issue. President Zigo wabanga address South Africa and wabanga address Africa. He has addressed the world. When Burundi, amaswedwa ku Malawi, kumaberedwa zinthu, kumaberedwa katundu wawo, kumalandidwa makontena awo, kumamenyedwa, kumauzidwa kuti mtoke nziko mwathu mashopa awo kusekedwa mwankhaza, kugwiriridwa azimayi ochokera mayiko ena. Ajipani IMCP kupezeka pa camera, even on cameras. What did Chakwera say? And at that time, what was Ayuba telling you Malawians about Chakwera? He's the best president. In fact, he should be the dictator. You know, we need a benevolent dictator. Chakwera should be benevolent. Ayuba James was saying that. Kwafuna what is it kumande now for Mufuse Kajoloweka, Charles Kajoloweka. So Kajoloweka, Advocacy kage ndika kapa pepa chabe. Kongo sakuti zikukantenjani. Komano, he's not concerned about the results. He's not. Ndi muntu onena kuti amapanga advocacy yokondedwa kuti nizikondedwa. Nthawi imene anapanga advocacy amene ja nthawi imene DPP inali mboma. Anatipula. I think anatopa naye. Nayenso ndi munthu. And he has a choice to do things in a different way. But the last 5 years, many MCB in Alimboma, Charles Kajoloweka was doing advocacy because advocacy was not supposed to leave Malawi. At not least, like there's no reason why advocacy was supposed to be chased in Malawi. And the fact that this issue, if we get under the carpet, it pains me. But my point is, how you mean about talk Burundi, Congo, Rwanda, amapangidwa nkhaza ku Malawi. Chakwera was quiet. He didn't say anything. Ahina zikhali ngoma anaba chuma cha mbiri cha anthu amenewa. Achina Steve Kayuna anabera ma foreigners. Anabera anthu ochokera my investors anthu they have certificate to run business in Malawi. Anaberedwa. You know, there were a lot of violations of human rights and no one cared. Palibe amirana summarize. And now, to find zero on what is happening in South Africa. When he failed and get Zuza and Burundi, Rwanda, and Hameneso, they were giving us my products, quality in their shops. Zinuzina Panoba and Hamali Pirabu Zibeza for Burundi, and Amenido, and Tamangisiba, Malaimo. My shop now can come to Bangaran. Because these people work hard. Akakawira with a Malamu Jama Buya Kandi Tipula. And they are there for you. I'm a kind these are past 10 years. Then they move to another country. I'm a bang and drama member. If we haven't even learned to go down to I'm a bangajan, we have not even paid attention. But my point is, if it was Zuza and Aku Congo, Aku Rwanda, Aku Burundi, Mdima Africans, Mamwenye, Sidma Kuza. Amwenye to Nobela. Azungu, Sidma Kuza.